Hello, friends. How are you? How's things? How's life? How's your world? Hope all is well. I read a book. I can't. I can't show you the cover, but I read it here out of my Kindle. But it was a library loan, and I returned it before filming this like an idiot, and it takes it off your Kindle immediately, and then I can't show you the cover on the Kindle like I normally do. It was I put it in the thumbnail. You could see the cover in the thumbnail. I read a book. I haven't done a book review in quite a while on the channel because I haven't been reading. If I've had any free time at all, it's been either base or video games. But I read a book, and I want to talk about it because this is a book that I never would have picked out on my own. It was recommended to me. There's another parent on my kid's softball team who is a reader, and she messaged me, back in August or something, and was like, "Oh my God, I read this book. You have to read it." And I said, "Okay." And I went and looked on the library. I put it on hold, and it took until now to get it because I think it was also like an Oprah Reads pick for 2025. So there's like, my library has 10 copies, and each one of them has 10 people waiting on it or something like that. So it took me a couple of months to get it, and then I got it and I read it. The book is called The River is Waiting, and I can tell you after reading the book, that title makes no more sense than it did before I started reading the book. And that's okay. It's a book. Here, I'm just going to tell you straight up, right up front, I very much enjoyed the book. I think I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I don't think I gave it 5. Because it was an extremely engaging book, but also a very non-traditional book, meaning that there's not really a story here. There's stuff that happens, and there's a main character that goes through some things, but there's no real resolution to any of that. There's no real, like, it's just like, here's a few years in this person's life, and this person happens to do something horrible within the first chapter. What I can tell you as a parent was just like, ugh, I can't, just, the thought of it was just horrifying. And then he spends most of the book in a prison, and the things that happen to him in this prison, and ultimately the book is kind of about this person's internal journey, this struggle, this just, yeah, it's about what's going on inside of this person, not necessarily how the world is being affected or whatever. Like, that stuff matters, and there's his ex-wife or his current wife. I don't, how do you, whatever, the person that he has children with, and his mom and her mom, and other inmates and prison COs. There's a whole lot of relationship and just struggle, and just like a person, the main character standing up for what he believes in, and getting shot down for that, and doing something remarkable, and getting praise, but also getting kind of turned out for that. Like, there's a lot of stuff, but ultimately, like, this character goes through all of these things, but there's no real, like, finale. There's no real resolution to all the things that happened. There are things that are wrapped up by what people say, and what people, switch a few points of view at the end of the book to kind of give you some gist of what other people were going through during this time. But there's not really a traditional plot here. There's not a traditional, like, character goes, something happens, an inciting incident, character goes on this adventure and comes out of it a changed man. That doesn't happen. It doesn't happen at all. And however, there is an inciting incident, and this person does go on this journey. But the ending of the book, the title, when I said I don't really understand the title seems to allude to something that doesn't happen. It's one of those kind of stories where the whole time I'm thinking, like, okay, when is this going to come into play? When is this river coming into play? When is something's going to happen here? And so I had these expectations of, like, all right, I can see where this story might weave and where we end up. And when none of that happens, it's just kind of like, oh, well, that's the end of the story. And at the same time, it was like, that was a very satisfying ending. Like, it worked. It worked well. Despite it not being, I guess, the ending that my brain was trying to formulate as I was reading it. Because there's a whole lot of threads. It's one of those stories that has just tons of threads. But ultimately, it's just a slice of life story about this man's downfall, and then his time repenting for that downfall behind bars specifically, and then the results of all of that. And it was a very satisfying read. There's of course the blurbs on the book that are like, I couldn't put this down. The most, I definitely could put it down. It took me almost the 2 full weeks to read it, which normally this is the length of book that I would read in 3 or 4 days. It took me a long time to read it because it was put downable. It was like, okay, I'm ready to step into Corby's life for a few minutes, maybe a half an hour or whatever. But there was some really challenging stuff in the book. Personally, for me, I don't know, it might not be challenging for you. That was just hard to get through, and it was like, I'll come back to that when I'm mentally prepared to handle that that next section of the book. Nothing, nothing too graphic or too involved, but definitely some moments where you're just like, I'm not ready to tackle that right now. I'm going to come back around to that. But one of the things I loved about it is the depiction of prison. There's a podcast that I listened to called Ear Hustle, and Ear Hustle was originally created inside of San Quentin Correctional Facility in California. The two hosts, Erlon, wow, I just forgot the other host's name. Started this thing while Erlon was a prisoner, and now he's not a prisoner, but they've continued this podcast, and it's there's just something that I find really interesting about the way that prison life is depicted in movies and television versus the way that prisoners talk about prison life and like the reality of what prison is. And this book really touched on a lot of that stuff, and it really made me feel like I understood what this person was going through because I had listened to this podcast for years, and I got a good sense of what prison was like. So very cool book. I can definitely recommend it, especially if you're just into those kind of like slice of life. You don't need a big fanciful plot, and you don't need magical thinking to have a satisfying ending. If you can just live with a person for a while and really gain some insight from his existence, or his imagined existence, I guess, and the people around him, it's that kind of book that you can latch onto and just read for. I don't want to say comfort. It's not a very comforting book, but at the same time, it felt that way. The River is Waiting, Wally Lamb. First book I've read from Wally Lamb. I'll probably read more of his books just to see what else is going on. Let me know if you've read it in the comments. Let me know if you have thoughts, questions, concerns, anything you want to talk about in the comments. While you're down there, please like the video. If you're new here, please subscribe. I haven't done a lot of book reviews lately, but last year I did probably 60 book reviews or something like that. So maybe we'll get back around to reading like that again in future. I'm not sure. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you again on Monday. Today's 1,000 plus little things happy, successful people do differently. We have been learning 20 mantras to start your day loving people. We are on number 18. The way we treat people we don't understand is a report card on what we've learned about love, compassion, and kindness. It's also maybe a report card on how you treat yourself. I think yourself is the ultimate person that you don't understand. And if you treat yourself poorly, chances are you're going to treat other people poorly. You might not think you do, by the way. You might treat yourself poorly and think that you're being very kind and generous to other people. But often that is exactly the opposite of what they need.